The day after my husband Nathan Hart jetted off with his assistant Sabrina Wells on what he shamelessly called a business honeymoon. I didn't cry, I didn't beg, I didn't even call. Instead, I finished packing the last box in my office, signed the resignation papers, and walked out without looking back. While he was laughing under candlelight with another woman, I quietly disappeared from his life. He didn't realize it yet, but the woman he had taken for granted for 5 years was already gone. Gone from his company, gone from his home, gone from his future. And when he finally noticed, it would be far too late. Have you ever been so deeply betrayed that you didn't even have the strength to fight anymore? If you were in Olivia's shoes, would you have stayed and fought or simply walked away? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life revenge stories every single day. My name is Olivia Hart. I'm 32 years old, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. A successful husband, a promising career at the company we built together, from the ground up, a life that from the outside looked almost perfect. Nathan and I met during college. He was ambitious, charismatic, and had a fire in his eyes that could convince anyone to believe in him. And for a long time, I believed in him, more than I believed in myself. When Nathan decided to start his own company, I was the first to invest not just my money, but my time, my energy, and my heart. I worked long nights alongside him, managing paperwork, smoothing over contracts, building relationships with clients. Most of the early victories, the partnerships, the first major deals, they all carried my fingerprints. But you would never know that. If you asked Nathan, in meetings he would smile proudly, taking all the credit. At first I told myself it didn't matter, we were a team. His success was my success. But slowly cracks began to appear. It started small, little dismissive jokes at my expense during board meetings. Then came the silent treatment whenever I challenged his decisions, and then came Sabrina Wells. Sabrina was young, charming, and most importantly, adoring of Nathan. She laughed at his jokes, even the cruel ones. She praised every idea he had, no matter how foolish. And Nathan soaked it all up. He promoted her faster than anyone else, even though she lacked the experience. When mistakes happened, it was brushed off. When projects succeeded, projects that I had salvaged behind the scenes, Sabrina got the applause, and I became invisible. It wasn't just professional either. At home, Nathan grew colder. Gone were the small gestures of love, the quick kisses, the shared meals, the quiet nights talking until sunrise. Instead, there were long silences, late nights at the office, and excuses about client meetings that stretched into the early morning. I tried to talk to him, I tried to reach out, but every time I was met with indifference or thinly veiled irritation. The man I had loved was no longer standing in front of me. In his place was a stranger who saw me as nothing more than an obligation, an inconvenience, something he could set aside whenever it suited him. Yet even then I stayed. I told myself things would get better, that every relationship had its rough patches, that if I just worked harder, loved him harder, he would remember why he married me in the first place. But deep down I knew the Nathan I had fallen for no longer existed. And the Olivia who had once dreamed of building a life with him, she was fading too. When I found out he had taken Sabrina on what he called a business honeymoon, it didn't break me, it clarified everything. There was no more love to save. There was no dignity left to salvage. That was the day I decided I would no longer fight for someone who had already thrown me away. And so, while Nathan was raising champagne glasses with another woman, I was quietly signing the papers that would free me forever. After handing in my resignation, I walked out of the company that I had once treated like my second home. No goodbyes, no tears, just a quiet, simple end. I didn't even make it to my car before Nathan called. His voice came through sharp and brisk, asking why I hadn't submitted the files he needed. He had no idea I wasn't working there anymore. No idea that his empire, propped up silently by me for years, had just lost its strongest pillar. I answered calmly. "I'm not at the company anymore," I said. There was a pause. Then in a voice laced with irritation, he barked, "You're supposed to be working. Leaving without permission is a violation. Your pay will be docked." I could have laughed at the absurdity, docking my pay, as if he hadn't already drained every account with my name on it to fund his lifestyle. as if he hadn't used my salary to buy designer gifts for Sabrina while telling me we needed to save for our future. But I didn't argue, I simply hung up. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. A social media post, a picture of Nathan and Sabrina, a candlelit dinner, a small velvet box sitting between them. The caption read, "Perfect night with my perfect partner." And in that moment, something inside me clicked into place. I wasn't sad, I wasn't jealous, I was free. For so long, I had clung to the hope that if I just endured a little more, worked a little harder, Nathan would finally see me, finally choose me. But seeing that photo, the way he smiled at her, the way she leaned into him so effortlessly, made me realize the truth. He had already made his choice a long time ago. I had simply refused to see it. The next morning, I gathered every financial record I could find. Bank statements, credit card charges, mortgage papers, everything that had been in my name but spent for his benefit. And when I saw it all laid out, every dollar funneled towards Sabrina's lifestyle, every trip, every luxury, I felt no sadness, only clarity. Nathan had built his dream on the back of my sacrifices, and I had let him, but not anymore. I called, the bank froze. Every joint account canceled, every card linked to my name. Then I listed our apartment, the one solely under my ownership, for sale. It didn't matter that Nathan still lived there. It didn't matter that he thought he was untouchable. The reality was simple. He had nothing that wasn't tied to me, and now he had nothing at all. While I moved forward, Nathan and Sabrina continued living in blissful ignorance. They paraded around town flaunting their new relationship, posting pictures, attending parties. And every time they spent money, every dinner, every hotel stay, they were unknowingly digging the hole deeper. Because the cards they were using, they had already been declined. The accounts already emptied. It didn't take long for reality to catch up. The first crack appeared during a business event. Nathan attempted to pay for a lavish dinner for his new clients, only to have his card declined twice. In front of everyone, the second crack came when Sabrina tried to check into a luxury spa using Nathan's name and was told the booking had been canceled due to unpaid balances. And then the third crack. The day Nathan called me furious, demanding to know why the utilities at the apartment had been shut off, I answered him calmly. "Maybe you should ask the new owner." It wasn't anger I felt anymore. It wasn't even satisfaction. It was peace. The kind of peace that only comes when you finally stop bleeding for someone who never cared if you lived or died. Nathan didn't know it yet, but his carefully curated world, the one he had built by stepping on me, was crumbling, and I wasn't going to lift a single finger to save him. The point of no return came quietly. Not with shouting, not with broken plates or tearful confrontations. It came with a simple envelope sliding across a desk. Inside it were the finalized divorce papers, signed, sealed, irrevocable. Nathan wasn't there when I dropped them off at the civil office. He was too busy flying to another country with Sabrina, posting pictures of seaside dinners and sunset strolls. The man who once begged me to believe in his dreams couldn't even spare a moment to notice that I was erasing him from my life. It was almost funny, the way he had always used divorce as a weapon, threatening me with it every time I questioned him, every time I asked for more than crumbs. He had thrown the word around so often, so casually, assuming I would always fold, always chase after him. He never thought I would mean it. Not until now, when Nathan finally returned. He walked into the apartment like he owned the world. Sabrina trailed behind him barefoot, wearing my robe, sipping wine from my favorite glass. They barely even flinched when they saw me standing there, suitcase by my side. Nathan sneered, "Skipping work again, Olivia? I can't keep defending you if you don't take your responsibilities seriously." Sabrina giggled behind him, tossing a grape into her mouth like this was all some joke. I said nothing. I simply handed him the real estate documents. The apartment sold. The new owners scheduled to move in within the week. At first, he laughed, thought it was another one of my tantrums, another empty threat. Then he saw the official stamps, the legal signatures, the wire transfer confirmation, and slowly his smile fell. "You can't sell this place without me," he said, voice rising. "This is our home." "No," I said softly. "This was my home. My name is the only one on the deed. It always has been." He opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. Maybe somewhere deep inside he knew he had known all along. He just never thought I would actually use that knowledge against him. Sabrina was the first to recover. She clapped her hands together and said brightly, "Well, maybe it's a good thing. It's about time we upgraded to a bigger place anyway." She turned to Nathan, batting her lashes. "We can find something better together," Nathan forced a smile. But I saw it. The panic flickering just beneath the surface, because he wasn't just losing an apartment. He was losing control. Losing the free ride he had gotten so used to. I turned toward the door, my suitcase already packed. But before I could leave, Nathan stepped in front of me, blocking the exit. "You're being dramatic," he said. "You're angry now, but you'll calm down. You always do. Let's not make decisions we'll regret." I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "I'm not angry. I'm done." The words hung in the air between us, heavier than any shout, sharper than any insult. Nathan's expression hardened. "You're throwing away everything we built together." I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It wasn't we who built it. It was me. I just finally realized you were never helping carry the weight. You were riding on my back the entire time. For a moment, neither of us moved. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Waiting, watching. Then Nathan said something that almost made me laugh out loud. "You'll regret this. No one else will ever love you the way I did." I didn't bother to correct him. I didn't bother to remind him that love doesn't look like betrayal, manipulation, and endless silence. Instead, I simply stepped around him, opened the door, and walked into the crisp evening air. Behind me, I could hear Sabrina's voice rising in irritation. I could hear Nathan trying to calm her down, trying to fix the mess he had created. But I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I knew exactly what they were trying to hold on to, and I knew it was already slipping through their fingers. After I walked out of that apartment, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't even hesitate. I had spent too many nights crying for someone who thought my pain was a nuisance. This time, I chose myself. I rented a small place on the other side of town. It wasn't luxurious, it wasn't flashy, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every quiet morning. Sunlight streaming through the windows, mine alone. Nathan tried calling at first. Messages filled my inbox, swinging wildly between demands and pleas. He promised to change. He threatened to fight the apartment sale. He accused me of ruining his reputation. And then he tried to sweet-talk me back with promises of starting fresh. I answered none of them because I knew Nathan too well. Starting fresh only meant starting the same cycle over again. While he scrambled, I moved forward. I accepted a new job offer that had been sitting in my inbox for weeks, twice the salary, half the drama. It turned out that while Nathan was busy parading Sabrina around, real companies had noticed my work, not his mine. The first week at the new job felt like breathing real air after years of suffocating. My colleagues respected me. My manager valued my input. For the first time in years, my ideas weren't dismissed, stolen, or twisted to boost someone else's ego. Meanwhile, Nathan's carefully polished world began to fall apart. The $1 million project he had trusted Sabrina to handle, the one he ripped away from me, turned into a disaster. Deadlines missed, budgets blown, client trust shattered, and Sabrina. She wasn't built for pressure. One small mistake led to another, and before long she had a public meltdown at the office, screaming at employees, throwing accusations left and right. Nathan had no choice but to fire her, but by then it was too late. The damage was done. Investors pulled out key clients, terminated contracts, whispers of lawsuits started circulating. Nathan was drowning, and for once there was no one left to throw him a lifeline. He tried reaching out again. This time it wasn't about love. It wasn't about regret. It was about survival. He needed me to help fix the mess. He needed the one person who had always quietly swept up behind him while he basked in the spotlight. But that woman no longer existed. When he showed up at my new apartment, soaked by a spring storm, pleading for help, I didn't even open the door. I watched him through the peephole for a long moment, then turned away. Let him stand there. Let him taste the loneliness he had forced me to swallow for years. Inside, I made tea. I curled up under a warm blanket, and I let the storm outside drown out his voice. Nathan didn't give up easily. Desperation makes cowards brave. He sent letters. He showed up outside my new office. He even tried to charm my friends into passing along messages. But I had learned something valuable. Closure is not something you wait for from others, it's something you give yourself. And I had already closed that chapter, sealed it shut, the apartment sale finalized, the divorce processed, my accounts rebuilt stronger and untouchable. Everything Nathan thought he could guilt me into surrendering was already gone. He was a man clutching at shadows, trying to hold onto a life he had carelessly thrown away in me. I was already building a new one where I didn't have to shrink myself to fit someone else's pride, one where I didn't have to beg to be seen, one where love, if it came again, would be mutual, not transactional. Nathan once told me that I would never find anyone better than him, that no one would ever love me the way he had. He was right, I would never find another love like that again, because I would never accept so little for myself again. And that realization, that peace, was the sweetest revenge of all. The collapse wasn't sudden. It was slow, painful. I watched it unfold piece by piece, like a building quietly cracking from the inside, before it finally crumbled. News of Nathan's company falling apart spread quickly. Former clients started talking. Former employees started whispering. The golden boy image he had built over years disintegrated in months. Sabrina, the assistant he had once risked everything for, didn't stay loyal either. When the company's money dried up, so did her affection. She turned on Nathan faster than anyone expected. First came the live streams. Sabrina went online and aired every dirty secret she knew. The late-night meetings that weren't really meetings. The client gifts paid with company funds. The manipulation, the lies. She painted herself as the naive young woman taken advantage of by a ruthless CEO, and the world, hungry for scandal, ate it up. Within weeks, Nathan became a pariah. Partners pulled out, vendors refused contracts. Former allies disappeared without a word. Every door that had once opened so easily for him now slammed shut. But that wasn't the worst of it. One rainy afternoon, I got a call from an old acquaintance. She worked at the same law firm Nathan had once hired for corporate counsel. Her voice was low, almost pitying, as she told me they're seizing assets. He's been sued, multiple lawsuits, pending. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't even feel angry. Just quiet. Nathan was experiencing the very thing he had made me live with for years. Powerlessness, loneliness, being discarded by people who once praised him when it served their needs. One night, a few weeks later, I got home from work to find a figure slumped outside my apartment building. Nathan sitting in the rain, soaked to the bone, a hollow look in his eyes. When he saw me, he stumbled to his feet, reaching out like a drowning man, grasping at driftwood. "Olivia," he croaked, "I have nothing left. Please just let's start over." I stood there, the key in my hand, the door only a few steps away. And for a moment I remembered the man I had fallen in love with, the man who once whispered dreams into my ear late at night, the man who had once upon a time promised me the world. But that man was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. Without a word, I turned and entered the building, leaving Nathan standing in the rain, calling my name until his voice broke. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't revenge, it was survival. You can't heal in the same place you got sick. You can't rebuild your life with the same person who tore it apart. And I had finally learned that lesson. The last I heard, Nathan tried to sell the small property he had bought secretly, the one he thought he could hide from everyone. But the name on the deed wasn't his anymore. It was Sabrina's. In one final act of betrayal, she had transferred ownership quietly, legally. And Nathan, blinded by arrogance and trust, never noticed until it was too late. Broke, alone, and humiliated, Nathan was forced to file for bankruptcy. His fall was absolute. As for Sabrina, she didn't fare much better. Her sudden fame from the scandal turned toxic fast. Accusations, countersuits, old skeletons dragged into the light. Last I heard, she had checked into a mental health facility after an incident at a cafe. I didn't rejoice in their downfall. I didn't celebrate their ruin, because their destruction wasn't my victory. My victory was quiet. It was found in the sunlight streaming through the windows of my small, peaceful apartment, in the laughter I shared with new friends who knew nothing about the woman I used to be, in the late nights spent working on projects that mattered to me, not to someone else's ego, in the simple, profound realization that I was finally truly free. Nathan once told me that life without him would be lonely, that I would never find someone who understood me the way he did. He was wrong. I found someone better. I found myself. A year later, standing on the balcony of my new home, I looked out over the city lights and realized something simple but profound. Healing doesn't come with grand gestures, it comes quietly. In the mornings, you wake up and no longer feel that heavy weight on your chest. In the evenings, you fall asleep without replaying old arguments in your mind. It's the peace you feel when you no longer wonder if you are enough. Because you know you are. Life moved forward. I had earned 2 promotions at my new job. I traveled to places I had once only dreamed about. I filled my home with books, music, and laughter instead of silence and tension. And slowly, gently, I opened my heart again. Not to a man who needed saving. Not to someone who saw me as a stepping stone, but to someone who looked at me like I was already whole. Someone who didn't need to be convinced of my worth. Someone who simply saw it. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. Honest, built not on broken promises, but on mutual respect and kindness. Looking back, I don't hate Nathan. I don't even regret the years I spent with him. Because every tear I shed, every lesson I learned, shaped the woman I am today. Stronger. Wiser, unbreakable. Some endings are brutal, some break you down so completely that you wonder if you'll ever stand again. But sometimes endings are simply doorways, leading you to a life you were always meant to live. And if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to walk through that door without looking back, you'll find something beautiful waiting on the other side. You'll find yourself. What did you think of Olivia's story? Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone you once thought you couldn't live without? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to fight harder for someone to stay, but to quietly choose yourself and move forward without them. Because real love, real respect should never have to be begged for. If you were in Olivia's shoes, would you have stayed and fought, or would you have let go the way she did? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if you believe that self-worth is something no one should ever compromise, type, I choose myself down below. Let's see how many warriors are walking their own journeys today. Don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story, so you never miss a powerful true story of courage, revenge, and healing every single day. I'll see you in the next story.